everybody, and welcome back to episode 9 of Life Change Transformation. And today we're talking about the gift of time. My name is Maeve Langford, joining you from Cork in the Republic of Ireland. And I'm being co-hosted here with Gary Benoit, the wonderful Gary Benoit in Alberta, Canada. And Gary is a coach and author of A Call for Service, and he's a licensed financial professional. I work as a transformational coach and facilitator here in Ireland, and it is our absolute pleasure to be with you today.
Yes, it's absolutely great.
So, Gary, we've been talking about, for you, daylight saving kicks in the weekend of, is it the 10th, 11th of March? For
Yep.
me, it kicks in the end of March.
Yep.
We had the 29th of February this year, an arbitrary, extra day thrown into the year. So
Mhm.
time, we can have different relationships with time, but it's a kind of arbitrary thing in some ways, isn't it?
It is, and like when I think about time, so like the gift of time, I use that word as time is really is a gift. We each have the same number of hours every day. We have 24 hours in a day. We can't have any more than that. We can't have any, it is what it is. That's just what it's set at. But we can really be mindful about utilizing the time available to us. And that's that gift that we have, that the choice that we have, really. And when you think about having an extra day in February, like that's a whole extra 24 hours. That did you use that time to your advantage? Because it comes around once every 4 years, right? So it's
I
pretty cool. It's
know.
it's pretty cool when you think about it. Well, I got a whole extra 24 hours. I always say, I wish I had more time. Well, this year, like, we had the extra time, 24 extra hours. Um, the time changes. We were talking about the time changes before we came on here, and I had no idea that you didn't change the same weekend that we change.
Yeah. I know. I found out the hard way. I kept missing coaching calls for those couple of weeks in the first year or two, and we started to learn to preempt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that way, where that is very arbitrary, that change of time, that spring forward, right?
yeah,
Um, it's it's such an interesting thing because, like I say, we all have different, like all throughout the world is all doing their thing, right? The world is starting to, they get up in the morning and they go to sleep at night, and they fill the middle, whatever, with whatever job, personal stuff, whatever. How important is it to be mindful of that? It's pretty important, I think, the middle part.
I think so too. I think so too. And I think it's one of the things that we probably squander the most, actually. And to a certain extent it is through routine and habit. And in some ways with routine and habit, we can enhance our use of time if we've got good routine for that. But also, hours can go by on Netflix or on social media, or just having the same old conversation on one level.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, I think, I suppose, when we talk about life change transformation and wanting to do things more effectively and not just getting stuff done, but, creating outcomes and results that we want in our lives.
Yeah,
In a society where, people talk about just never having enough time, I think one of the people who really speaks to me is James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. And he says, it's not that there isn't enough time, there's plenty time. What there isn't enough of is focus for the
hmm,
time that you have and how you're using it.
for sure.
So we've spoken about focus
We
before.
have, yes.
Um, but what are some thoughts you have about,
Well,
how do we use time better?
well, I think, the organization of time is important. I mean, a calendar, utilizing the calendar in a way that truly makes sense. Like it's something that I've really struggled with up until now. Like I've had a love-hate relationship with a calendar piece. I also just, like I say, recently had retired from a policing career, right? I worked for 25 years as a police officer. And so I had, my time was given to me. It was structured for me. I had my 4 days when I was on, and I had to come in, and I had certain things I had to do during that particular time. So I didn't have to learn the skill of creating a useful calendar for the work piece. On my days off, I still had to be mindful, right? So I think it's really key to use your calendar and not be used by your calendar. So, like, we often say, let
Yeah.
me check the calendar, see if I have any time. Well, if you would love that, let's put it in the calendar so you have that time. So block it off ahead of time. So if you know you want to have a date night with your spouse once a week on a Friday. Then you put it in the calendar ahead of time and you just know that's your date night time. If it's an afternoon, if it's a movie, if it's a dinner, if it's a theater play, whatever you enjoy doing, if it's going swimming or going to the gym or whatever that is for you guys, whatever that, I don't,
Yeah.
it can be anything really. That quality time, if that's important to you, then you put it in there ahead of time. And I think we've
Yeah.
talked a bit about that as well, right? So I think utilizing that is really key. Um, Once again, something I'm working towards. I don't do this perfectly. I'm not perfect at this at all. And I endeavor to do it better every day. And
Yeah.
as I move it, I'm transitioning from an employee into an entrepreneur. I'm doing various little things along the way, right? With the book sales and this podcast, which has been amazing, and connect with people, and also being able to do some financial education for people and speaking. I have to be really careful about just being mindful around my day. I could get up, I could waste a day pretty easy.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I could. And I could do it with a fun things. I could play the guitar for 4 hours, not even know it. Right.
Mhm.
And that's amazing if that was in my schedule for that day. If was a day I'm not going to do any work, I'm just going to have my own time for sure. But if I had a bunch of things I had to do, prioritizing wise,
Yeah.
and I played the guitar for 4 hours, well, I didn't move my business forward. I didn't do right. I didn't get to that point, or whatever that looks like, for
Yeah.
me, or for those that are listening. It's the same idea.
Absolutely. And I think, there's a phrase, and I'm sure I'm not going to remember the words exactly now, but it's something like, it's not about scheduling your time, it's about scheduling your priorities. And I know the first time I was introduced, I mean, I worked all my adult life, and I would have been in a kind of job that you did work up a diary, and, meetings got scheduled and all of that. But when I first kind of came into the more transformational work and understanding the energetics of our thinking and our behavior, it was Mary Morrissey. She said, when you're planning your diary or your calendar, as you guys would say,
Hmm.
you put in all the personal things first, the birthdays, the holidays, the events that you want to be free for your family. You put all of those things in first, and then you put in all your, personal and professional development activities, and then you put in your work priorities. And I was, a bit like where you are now in terms of starting up your business. I was starting my business, and I was listening to her telling me how to use my diary when you're starting your business. And I was like, well, how does work come last? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And yet, we want work-life harmony, we want
For
work-life
sure.
balance. If we're not thinking about that, and we're not putting our priorities into our diary or our calendar, then we're not going to achieve that kind of harmony.
For sure.
So it's like you say, when I commit to it, and I make the time for it, then it happens. And Gary, I can tell, I have seen this play out so many times in my life. Like, when my goal was to climb Currán Tool a few
Hmm.
years ago.
Hmm.
That's the highest
Which is
mountain in
amazing.
Ireland. Well, it was amazing, but what was amazing was that you had to schedule time for that,
Yes.
So, we were like, okay, it's Sunday morning, so
Yep.
that's going to be our time for that. And last year I had again, a personal goal to be able to swim 2 kilometers. And like, I kind of set the goal in January, and we got to kind of April, May time, and I was like, nothing had happened. It was just
Hmm.
in my head, I want to do this. And April, May time, I was like, lady, if you don't get this in your calendar, it's just not going to happen.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and that was even before I started to swim. I had to have it in my calendar.
Right.
And so 3 times a week it was in the diary. And because it was in the diary, it got done.
Right.
And for the months before that, it was an idea and a thought, and I must do that, I must do
Hmm.
that, I
Hmm.
must do that, but it
Hmm.
didn't get done until it was scheduled.
Correct. And it goes back to you said something, what would you love for your life to look like? You talk about that harmony in right.
Hmm.
And really I think that's where the transformation, when you talk about life change and transformation, you talk about transforming your situation, your life, your position in the world you live in your 3 foot bubble. It truly is, what would you love in that world? If you would love to be in the gym or love to X, whatever you fill in the blank, and do a job you love, well then, and you have balance doing both, or having the harmony doing, I love the word harmony. That's a great word. I've used
Yeah.
balance for a long time, but I love that word harmony. That's a really great word, where you can harmonize that together.
Yeah.
And to do it in a way that's intentional, and to do it in a way that makes you feel good. Well, that's life transforming,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And that's amazing. And so, and that is just by being mindful of, okay, I'm going to put this in my calendar. I'm going to utilize the time I have available to me, because everybody has the same amount of time.
Yes.
And you'll,
Yes.
and what I want to get away from is this: work harder, longer, faster. That idea, the harder, longer, faster, right? If I just, I'm, in the financial world that I'm involved in, there are a lot of people that prescribe to that type of behavior.
Yeah.
And they believe that if they don't work 15 or 16 hours a day every day for 3 to 5 years, they'll never reach their goals.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the what they what's what I've been experiencing in the last little bit here. I've been to a few conferences, I've listened to a few people speak, and I don't prescribe to that. I don't believe that that's the only way to do it. I believe there's a better way. And
Absolutely.
and that's that harmony piece, right? So you don't
Yeah.
have to do longer, harder, faster. You could do it in a way that feels really good, because we all have 24 hours. We have this do
Yeah, exactly.
right. We have 20, I gotta sleep sometime,
Yeah.
and I've got the rest of the time to fill it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to speak to this idea as well. I do a lot of work with people in universities and, professional roles, and this, and actually for today, recording this call is International Women's Day. So
mhm.
there's probably some women listening today. And as women, Gary, you might not know this about all of us, but we women often kind of pride ourselves on being great multitaskers.
Oh my goodness, I do
And
know that about you guys. Yes, my wife
mhm.
is the she is the definition of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and you might want to share this with Colette from today, or she might listen to this call as well. But I believe that when we are multitasking, we are not doing anything particularly well. And all the research and all the evidence tells us to do one thing at a time, finish it, and move on to the next one. And you used the word mindful a couple of times
hmm
on the call already today. Like, for us to be mindful and to just get into the task, do it and move on. It is one of the ways that we can really, really enhance our kind of productivity and
hmm
moving things on.
hmm
So, and that's not to say that, sometimes you have to answer a call in the middle of, a piece of work, or, you have to drop one thing and go do something else. But it's when we're on the call and trying to drive the car, which is illegal anyway, or we're, you know, trying to deal. I remember my kids, they'd come in from school and I'd be here, tapping away on the computer, and they'd come in, hi mom, and I'm like, how's your day? And I'm still tapping, and they're like, mom, are we talking or are we not? And that being able to give that quality attention, we get feedback straight away when it's a person. They're like, hello, I'm here, look at me when you're talking to
hmm
me.
hmm
But when we're, maybe on our computer and there's, something, a podcast playing in the background, and, there's pings coming in, alerts from email or social media, it's not an effective way to use our time. It's
hmm
not a mindful way of using our time. And in terms of productivity, it is not impactful at
hmm
all.
hmm
So for all the multitaskers on the call, just really, really, I'd say get curious about that for yourself, and how might it enhance not just your productivity actually, but also your experience of the different activities.
Yeah, and I don't know what the research. I'm not sure. I know I've heard that before. I've seen different articles about, you know, do one then the next. But I wonder how much more quality you would have if you were to focus on one thing at a time, as opposed
Yeah.
to having a couple things on the go at the same time, and kind of forgetting trains of thought and various things. I mean, I think because today's being filmed on, or this is recordings on the Women's Day, International Women's Day. I mean, shout out to all those ladies out there that are killing it, that are, they're working, they're doing the home thing, they're doing the child rearing, they're really, really, to be honest with you, like, as a man, as a person who has I have an amazing wife. My wife is my goodness, I could never ask for anybody better. And she is superb at a number of amazing things. And I just, you know, without someone like that in your life is not as rich. And I feel like I'm very rich that way. And I think that a lot of men would feel that way about their spouses. I would hope anyway, because like truthfully, like you guys do it enrich our lives. And so thank you for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, and right back at you, I would say. But yes, yes, yes. So, I mean, again, in terms of, making the most of our time, there's Dale Carnegie again, we've probably all read bits of his work and his research over the years, but he says an hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing.
Hmm. Interesting.
So again, and this for me in my journey as a business owner and an entrepreneur as well is like that capacity to plan things in advance, to, decide when the event is going to be and work back from that. I mean, all of that has been a discipline and a learning for me, but absolutely that hour of planning, I know it does save the 10 hours of doing. So
Sure.
again, for everybody listening, to take, even half an hour at the end of the week and just kind of, what have I achieved? Compliment myself on that. What's left over for next week? What do I want to put in my diary and schedule? And what needs to be in there for next week, not just carry over, but in terms of what's coming down the line. And if I do all of that on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, and when I come in then Monday morning, there's no kind of like, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? It's like it's already there.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
already planned. And we've given ourselves the dopamine hit of, well done me. I did these things last week and that's
Hmm.
all in place and in hand. It's such an easier way to live. It's
And what,
such an easier way to live.
like you mentioned too, you said, what was the word you used? You used need to do and have to do, or what? There's two words you used there.
Oh, the
The
important
important
and versus
and
the urgent.
the urgent. That's what it was. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that is also key to identify what's kind of
Yes.
I have to do and what's a need to do, right? Or what's the urgent? What's the urgent things I have to get done? And I would even go as far as to say, like, what I've done recently that's been really helpful is I pre-plan my next day the day before. So
Yeah.
the night before I go to bed, I do just a quick check in. What's
Yeah.
tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I just a couple of things, two or three things on the list that I know I should really focus on in the morning. And then, the Friday night check in, how was the week? Because if you did those
Hmm.
two or three things, how much better would your life be?
Yes.
Right? You've taken
Yeah.
if let's say you've done even one thing that moves yourself closer to that vision of your perfect or your ideal life or that life that you could envision living, well, you've taken five
Yes.
brand new steps forward, right? So that's pretty awesome. And it should be celebrated,
Yes. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And then setting yourself up, if you take the weekend off, if the weekend is just time, no problem. Saturday, Sunday, no big deal. But have that Friday evening or have Sunday evening schedule where you can have that time to look at the next day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whether that be a Friday night or Sunday night, whatever that looks like to you, whatever is easiest for you. Like that's something I think is really that's a great tip, and I love that you had mentioned that. That's so good.
Yeah. And I think, to remind people as well, I don't know if we said this when we talked about focus and, having that kind of clarity of what you're doing at any given time. But, in Sean Covey's work, the son of Stephen Covey, and his book, The Four Disciplines of Execution, and he talked about, if you've got two or three priorities that you're focused on and you're giving your time and attention to, over the course of a few months, the chances of achieving those things to, a high degree of satisfaction, you will do it. The two or three things you'll achieve. If you're trying to do like between 4 and 10 things and you're trying to do a bit of everything, the chances are, I think they said that one or two of those things will be achieved to a degree of satisfaction. And if you've got like 11 to 20 things that you're, running around trying to do all of, and what the research tells us is that none of them get done. to a degree of satisfaction. So again, sometimes we're afraid that, oh, well, if I'm focusing on this, it means I'm not doing that. And we get worried about that. But at the end of the day, we can't have 20 priorities.
Hmm.
They can't
Hmm.
all be equally important. So pick the one or two things that are going to be needle moving. And it doesn't
Hmm.
matter whether this is in your career or your health or your relationship or
Correct.
time and money freedom, but pick one or two things. Other stuff gets done too, as parents and entrepreneurs and coaches, like their stuff needs to get done. We'll do that. But the one or two things that are a priority, and we're giving that a bit of time every day,
Hmm.
and other things get sacrificed for, the guitar playing might get sacrificed to
Yeah.
get that other thing done for that hour.
Yeah.
Um, and if we do that, that kind of needle moving action is happening. And we know how do you climb a mountain? One step at a time.
Right.
So if you're taking that 1 degree step every day, as a client said to me recently, she said, Maeve, if I have just 1 degree improvement every day, she said, in 100 days, that's 100% improvement.
Correct. Yeah.
Like it's mind blowing, really, how simple it can be when we
Hmm.
break it down. And I
Yeah.
guess that's what we're trying to do here for everybody
For sure.
listening, to
We
break it
also,
down.
for sure, right? And we also know that if you work on one part of your life, let's say it's a health goal, it may not be a work goal. Maybe it's not, maybe not even a money goal. Maybe it's just like your health is important to you because you've got some things that are ailing you. And you decide to spend a little more time, be more mindful around, okay, going to the gym and doing those certain things. What do you know, I both know, Maeve, that if we work on that, even though we're not focused on maybe our career in that moment or our relationships in that moment, they'll all improve as a result and they all come with
Yeah.
anyway, right? So like it's not like you're not working on those things anyway, but you're just focused a little more intently
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
one or two things, right? So, and that's truly the gift of time, right? Because when you think about the gift of time, you think about we each get 24 hours. It's a gift. We get up in the morning, the day is a gift. That's why they call it the present, right? It's in the present, it's a present
Mhm.
for us. We have the ability to be super mindful around, well, even if I spend 2 hours today on whatever that's important to you, well, that's 2 hours that you wouldn't have had done if you didn't have that intention, right? So I think it's really key to understand that that's the gift.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
Yeah, and when you think like 2 hours on that thing, I mean, there's another book it's over there on the bookcase, but it's like build your business in 90 minutes a day. If you're just giving it that 90 minutes every day, you can absolutely scale a business,
Correct.
create a business. And it brings me back to, what you were saying, the important and the urgent. So the urgent is, often other people's agendas, whether that's your boss or your spouse or your kids or whatever, I got to get me to training, you've got to get me to school, whatever it is. So those things, they need to be done, yes. But if we're constantly in this kind of treadmill of reacting to the urgent, the things that are important, like maybe playing the guitar or like, having that Friday night date with my partner or being at the kids' soccer match, whatever it
Hmm.
is, if we're constantly just on this treadmill of the urgent, the important is being squandered and pushed out.
Hmm.
So again, knowing what it is, knowing my vision, knowing the results I want to create, and prioritizing that again is really significant.
Hmm.
And I often talk with people in the workplace about, they want to go for a promotion or they want to, achieve the next level up in some way. And it's about, making sure that there's just, and it only needs to be a couple of hours a week. It doesn't even
Correct.
have to be a couple of hours a day,
Right.
but a couple of hours where you're focusing on what are going to be those needle moving actions for my promotion or, to get the next piece of skill development or whatever it is. So, using your planning time to make sure that some of that is being committed to. And if you're listening today and you're wondering, where do I find those couple of hours, the number one tip I would give to anybody who's in the workplace is that schedule those hours and do not open your email in the morning until you've done that task.
Hmm.
I bet, if we could see our listeners and we could ask them to raise a hand, who starts the day by opening their email? It's almost all of us because it's a habit. And the minute we do that, we're into other people's priorities, other people's urgency, other people's needs. And how many of us have gone into the workplace and with an intention? We probably have the intention, but we open our email and suddenly those couple of hours that you had that you were going to focus on that needle moving action has been gone on just answering emails, following up other people's requests, following a breadcrumb of trails
Hmm.
into
Hmm.
social media, into whatever, and those few hours are gone. And you know what? In our language, Gary, we would say that the paradigm has won again.
Correct.
And we've been distracted or delayed out of doing the thing that would have made a difference in
Yeah,
terms of our life, the change, the transformation we want to
for sure.
create.
But
So,
I think when, if I was to add to that, like I totally agree with you. That's 100% correct. Like as soon as you open that email or open up whatever that task is, now you're into that. Now you're basically you're on that slide for the day, and the day will
yeah.
be gone, and you're like, oh, I never got that done today,
Yeah.
right? One, don't beat yourself up if that happens. No big deal. Just try
Yes.
to do it better next time.
Yes.
It's just not
Yeah.
about perfection. This is about progress. So you know, no big deal.
Yeah.
Another great tip I think would be to have some type of like routine in the morning. I think having a routine in the morning, um, you set yourself up the night before, you know what you have to do, right? You have your needle moving activities listed down. Okay, these are the three things or two things that I'm going to do tomorrow to move myself closer to that life that I would love to live, that vision, right, that I have for myself.
Uh-huh.
That's important the night before to take a little bit, like take even that only takes about 15 or 20 minutes. It really doesn't take very long, right?
Yeah.
Right before you go to
Yeah.
bed or as you're brushing your teeth, have a little notepad or something. I don't mean whatever works for you. But in the morning, I think it's really important. Once again, not something I do perfectly. I try to do every day, but I have a little journaling practice in the morning. I try to connect with that vision and I try to be into that in that morning and writing things down. And then part of that journaling process is to list those same things that I had listed the night before in my to-dos for that day. So it's like it's almost like a reminder or
Hmm.
like a reinforcement of this is what I have to
Yes.
do. And
Yeah.
it keeps me on track and what I found is that if I really am mindful about it, I can actually get those done relatively early in the day. And then by doing that too, it frees up a bit of time. It frees up some time. Amazing that, right? Now I have the gift of additional time to do things like go to the gym and or whatever that looks like, right? Like depending on what the day is. For example, the day before this was filmed, I did all my stuff and was done by like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning. And I was able to go with Aiden to go and hit some golf balls at an indoor virtual golf place, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
really cool because I had the ability then at that point to do that because I had time. I had the freedom of that afternoon because all the things I wanted to get done that were needle moving were done already.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
I didn't feel guilty about going and hitting a few golf balls, right?
Yeah.
And it was a kind of so that's really cool.
It is. And again, it shows you the importance of having a couple of clear goals that once I get those done, because then we feel good about ourselves,
Hmm.
don't we? And
Hmm.
rather than, the experience of I've been busy, 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 and I haven't done any of the things I wanted to do.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a horrible way. And a lot of us live like that for a long time.
For sure. And
And go ahead.
I just say, I've done that. I know what that feels like,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
right? And that busy, I mean, I think once again, it was part of my world. I mean, I look back and I think, man, oh man, I'm surprised I was able to even to be open up to this opportunity to have these type of conversations with people that I'm at now. Like I can't even imagine, right? So
Yeah.
it's really, really, yeah. I just think that busy just kind of takes away from that ability to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, like for anybody who's just overwhelmed with busyness at the moment, I would say, maybe you can't put more into your diary this week, but like next week or the week after, before it's filled up with busyness, start from today, putting in, that meeting with my girlfriends, that outing to the gym, that, date night, start putting them in. And then when you get to that week, it's already in there. And some of the stuff that's just not so important in your life will fall off. And I guess one of the things, one of the muscles that we have to build in all of this is just learning to say no to requests
Right.
that aren't aligned with your best version of yourself and with your vision for your life and
Correct.
your work life
Yeah,
harmony and all
for
the
sure.
rest. Yeah.
Right on. So as we come to the end here, any last words about the gift of time?
Well, I would just say, you know what? Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
For so much of my adult life, I was just, on the treadmill, fighting with all the tasks and all the busyness and never feeling like I was on top of anything. And just to make a decision, it doesn't have to be this way. And like you said at the start, the most successful people in the world, the most wealthy people in the world, the happiest people in the world, whatever measure you want to take, they all only have the same 24 hours as you and I
Correct.
have. So just make a decision to use it in a way that's uplifting for you,
Right.
and start to be more the master of your calendar, the master
Hmm.
of your time, and
Hmm.
and it will fall into place. It
Hmm.
will fall into place.
Right. I agree. I think pre-plan, right? Be mindful, pre-plan, take the night before, plan the next day, plan your calendar, a week or two in advance. What the ones that are important to you, right? That's important to put in there first and then schedule things around that. And just know that you do this imperfectly perfect, you guys. This is not about perfection. This is
Yeah,
about just going out and doing the best you can. And there's going to be days that things are run away, and that's okay. There's going to be days that you're not going to have exactly all of the things done you wanted to get done, and that's really okay. You just move to the next day, no problem. Like I say, don't get too beat up about it. Know that we're all a work in progress. Know that we're all wanting transformation in our lives, that we want to be in a different place, and this is a great step towards that. I know as we conclude here, Maeve, you've got a vision workshop coming up here soon, correct?
absolutely. The 19th to the 21st of April, live
Okay.
in Cork here in Ireland. Yeah,
Okay.
would love to see people there. We'll put the link below today's
Awesome. Is it just
podcast.
is it in person and online, or is just in person?
No, it is
Just in
just in
person. Okay.
person.
So
Yeah,
if you're in the area or you have the ability to travel and you're out that way, go and touch base with Maeve.
exactly.
On my side, we have myself and another partner of mine that it's from Texas. He's a firefighter paramedic. His name is Matt Wood. Good dude. Him and I have a workshop coming up. It's called Call. It's courage, adventure, loyalty, and life. We basically, we have our first one coming up in May 10th and 11th. And so if you're in the Texas area near Dallas, it's in McKinney. By all means, we would love to have you out. Limited seating for that, by the way, only 40 people. So
Okay,
not
so
not
get
not
booked
not
in.
not a big venue. So we're keeping it intimate so that we can really pour into everybody as much as we can. And
Wonderful.
as always, a call for services on Amazon if anybody wants to touch base and read a little more about what I'm about and where I've come from over my last 25 years as a police officer and how I came to be sitting in this podcast room with Maeve. By all means, take a read. That would be awesome. It's on Amazon. It's called A Call for Service. And
Brilliant.
anything else you want to add there as we finish?
No, I think all good. We put everything in the links,
We
including your
will.
book, Gary, and
Sure.
yeah, invite people to engage. If there's a topic you'd love us to speak to, or a subject that you'd like some support with, be sure and reach out via whether it's email or Twitter or LinkedIn or all our socials.
Yep,
We're always keeping an eye on traffic
for
there,
sure.
and we'd be delighted to speak to any topic.
Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you
Have
all.
a great week.
And we'll
Bye for
see you
now.
next time.